I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. With us, one of the premier trends forecasters. He's been right a lot, and he's decided to come on and help us out and give us a look-see with the 2020 year, a year of years, I think it's going to shape up to be. But we'll let Gerald Celente, the publisher of the Trends Journal, tell us about that. Gerald Celente, thanks for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Always great being on with you. Thanks for having me on, Greg.
Let's start with, last week impeachment. They were so proud of themselves. I mean, even the people in the media, of course, they are the cohorts and the unindicted co-conspirators of the Democrat Party. I'm making a bit of a joke, but they did have a media leak strategy. The FBI had, and they're out tweeting out "Merry Impeachmas," and it's really sickening. I mean, the first time in history where somebody was impeached in the White House, then there wasn't a crime. Let's start with the impeachment and your look ahead into 2020. Is that going to hurt or help Trump?
Well, it's going to help Trump. They're not going to, obviously, the Senate is not going to convict him. And this is just a total waste of time. And if you go back earlier in the year, you heard the House Majority Leader over there, Nancy Pelosi. Oh, if only women were in charge. I'm sick of that crap, too. I don't care about race, creed, color, gender. Good and bad comes in all of them. And here's the proof. I mean, one loser after another in all of them. She goes on to say that, this won't work. It will be deemed as illegitimate if it's not a bipartisan effort. That's what she said earlier in the year. Well, it wasn't a bipartisan effort. None of the Republicans voted for it, and only 2 Democrats did not vote for it. So it wasn't bipartisan. It is totally illegitimate. And when it all began, we told our Trends Journal subscribers, don't pay any attention to this because it's a waste of time and energy. There's a whole world going on out there, and all you're going to get from the dumb U.S. media is impeachment this and impeachment that. It adds up to zero. It's going to help Trump because what's the impeachment about? Well, let me read you from the toilet paper of record, the New York Times. This was last Thursday. Quote, this is the quote, over the course of the last 3 months, we have found incontrovertible evidence that President Trump abused his power by pressuring the newly elected president of Ukraine to announce an investigation into President Trump's presidential rival. So that little boy of crappy little Schiff, that other guy, Adam Schiff, that's his quote. Then he goes on to say, following the impeachment, Ukraine is fighting our fight against the Russians, against their expansionism. That's our fight too. Hey, Junior, hey, little boy with cojones smaller than a mothball. It's your fight. Go lead the fight. Not my fight. Most Americans have no clue what's going on in Ukraine. Ain't my fight. I am an American. I support the Constitution, the Founding Fathers, no foreign entanglements. What's this about? Oh, it's about Trump wanting to find out how a little another boy of nothing, Hunter Thompson, Hunter Thompson. I'm sorry, Mr. Thompson. Hunter Biden got $50,000 a month, along with John Kerry's stepson-in-law's partner, Christopher Hines, that was who was his stepson-in-law of the Heinz 57 variety, also got $50,000 a month for sitting on the board of Burisma Energy when these guys don't know anything about the business. And number 2, can't speak Ukrainian. And number 3, never been there. How did he get the job? That's what this is all about. And then this other piece of Schiff goes on to say, you ready? We used to stand up to Putin and Russia. That's why we support Ukraine with the military aid that we have. The president may not care about it, but we do. Military aid, stealing our money, little Schiff, to give to the military-industrial complex. so they can make a couple of $100 million more. Was it $400 million? And now we're giving them more aid. Stealing, get back to work, everybody. The military-industrial complex wants your money, and Schiff bends down and gets it up to New York what to give it up to our money to them. This whole thing is a total fraud. It's a waste of time, a waste of energy, a waste of our money, and anybody tuned into this, watching it closely, you just wasted precious time of your life.
Can you tell me why? I mean, anybody watching this has to be, even the Democrats, and they think this is going great. I think it went awful. I think it was. I think it went awful. I think a lot of stuff, and I'm not a Republican. I'm really not. But I just look at this and go, this is not, can't be. They can't be thinking this is going good. Can you tell me what the point was? If she knows it's not going to go anywhere in the Senate, why is she doing this? Just another wrap-up smear to dirty up Donald Trump for the 2020 election?
That's it. And let's hate Russia more, because they didn't come up with one shred of evidence that Russia hacked into the DNC. Not one shred of evidence. The reason why it looks so stupid, wake up, America. You got a bunch of imbeciles and morons running and ruining your life from both sides of the party. Listen, I'm no Trump fan. You know, I'm a political atheist. I don't believe in his garbage. But this is moronic. You asked me how it's going to help Trump. It's going to help Trump because he's going to use this to show that Joe Biden, if that's his challenge in the presidential reality show in 2020, you're going to start looking at all the dirty deals that Joe, who never worked a day in his life, Biden, who's been sucking off the public tit his whole life, was doing over his years in office. And the issue is going to come out again about how his little boy got all that dough. This is going to hurt the Democrats. And by the way, one of our top forecasts that came out before the impeachment was finalized was Trump 2020. They have nobody to run against him. All that matters is who's going to win the swing states. And if it's a Biden, forget it. If it's Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren, ain't no way. So it's Trump 2020, and this is going to help him in the long run.
And you have pretty good political chops. I mean, you ran campaigns and things like that. So this isn't just you. This is you have two hats here. I mean, you are pretty good political analyst, and then you also analyze all your trends in the future too. And this is what you're saying. And the Democrats must be seeing this. They must be.
They're dumb in hell. Look at them. How can any self-respecting human being, if Adam Schiff came up to you and said, listen, Hunter, I'm going to tell you what to do. Excuse me, Greg.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to tell you what to do. You would tell him to screw off. Look at these little imbecilic morons. Look at the crap that we have running the country. You want to know why it's going down? And it's not only in Washington. It's in a city, a state, a county, a village near you. We have two murderous, corrupt, ignorant, imbecilic parties running and ruining our lives. How much more damn proof do people need?
What's your other big trends coming up? You got a bunch of them come up in the Trends Journal. What are your other big trends? I know you can't give them all because you got a ton of them. It's a big deal. You're also on Weekly. We'll talk about that at the end of the interview. But what are your other big trends coming up? And let's say to start with the economy.
Well, the economy is going to be fine for America, we believe, for next year because they're going to lower interest rates. You're going to see negative and zero interest rate policy by this time next year. You know, Trump is the art of the deal. And if anybody thinks the president doesn't have power over the Federal Reserve, grow up. Go back and look when Richard Nixon brought in Burns before the election as inflation's going up and says to Burns, I want you to lower interest rates before the election, and he did. Paul Volcker, who just passed away, the Fed chair under Reagan, in his book, he wanted to get the book out before he died. He was called into the Oval Office by James Baker, who was the head of chief of staff. And they went into the library, Reagan sitting next to him. and he said to Volcker, you have orders from the president not to raise interest rates before the election. They're going to lower interest rates. It's going to continue to artificially pump up the economy. And now we're looking at the Federal Reserve since September 15th to December 16th, they dumped in over $3 trillion into the repo markets so the gamblers could gamble the next day. From December 16th to January 18th, they announced they're going to dump in another $2.93 trillion with a T. All right? So they're artificially going to prop up the markets. Go around the world. All the central banks are lowering interest rates. They're artificially propping this thing up. I believe the economies are going to be sustained in 2020, but by 2021, should Trump, there's not a wild card wilder than the Trump card. Minus a wild card, as I said, Trump wins in 2020. By 2021, he'll be Herbert Hoover 2021, because the global depression is going to happen, the greatest depression. This whole thing has been artificially propped up with cheap money. You know, Greg, people say to me, Celente, you got it wrong. Yeah, I got it wrong. In Economics 101, in graduate school, they didn't teach me about negative and zero interest rate policy and quantitative easing, Junior. And they never taught me about repo markets where they pump in tens of trillions of dollars. Oh, and let's go back to 2008 to 2010, when the Federal Reserve dumped in, according to the Levy Institute of Bard College, $29 trillion into the banksters' pockets. And this is going on around the world. So the way you forecast trends is an understanding of where we are, how we got here, so you can see where we're going. The how we got here never happened before. So now we're looking at what we see as a $270 trillion debt bubble that we have now worldwide. It's going to explode in 2021.
You think it's going to be worse than the Great Depression? Do you think it's going to be a super depression? What would you call it?
The greatest depression, and I'll tell you again why. Again, as any imbecile that's wasted all their time watching what's going on with the impeachment, and by the way, if the impeachment had any vibe to it at all, with the stock markets right after the impeachment was announced, the next day on Thursday, boost up over 100 points. No. So now, what's going on around the world? Oh, let's start with Afghanistan. Let's go to Iraq. How about Iran? Maybe Syria. Been to Yemen lately? What about Lebanon? Hey, how about Algeria? France? No, let's not go to France. Let's go to Chile. Let's go to Colombia. Let's go to Peru. Let's go to Brazil. Let's go to Bolivia. Let's go to Sudan. Let's go to South Africa, Zimbabwe, Cameroon. Go all over the world. I'm in this business now 40 years. I've never seen so many riots, wars, protests, and demonstrations that are going on with that the American media is totally tuned out to. Now, what does that mean? Number one, big trend, homeless and helpless, like you've never seen before. All these people that are protesting, Hong Kong, most of them are about income inequality. All the dough going to the top and they got no money. When people lose everything and have nothing left to lose, they lose it, and they're losing it all over the world. Oh, I forgot Mali and Niger. Let's throw them in there too. Now, number three on that. You think you got an immigration problem now? War, murder, violence, poverty, misery, corruption. Hey, bombs away. You think you want to leave? You're going to see immigration issues, homeless issues like we've never seen before. Worse than the Great Depression? Let's add up the numbers. We had 2 billion people in 1930. 2 billion people on the planet. Guess what, Greg? In 90 years, we added 5.5 billion people. 5.5 billion people, not enough jobs. Not even close. And now with robotics, artificial intelligence, more jobs gone. You see what's going on. So It's going to be much worse than the Great Depression. That's why I'm calling it the Greatest Depression.
Let's talk about the. Let's throw that. Let's also throw in there, this revelation by the IG, who was appointed by Obama, who finally did admit there was bias, but that's not there. Forget the bias. There was massive law breaking. I mean, just fraud on the FISA court, which I think is a co-conspirator. They come out now and, oh, well, we need new rules. Anyway, but it looks like, you have, I have a CIA agent, Kevin Shipp, came on and said, listen, you just saw this thing with Holder doing an op-ed in the Mockingbird Washington Post. That's Obama talking. So they are scared. They are afraid of indictments. Do you foresee indictments and perp walks and jail time in 2020 with the Trends Journal?
No, because the word justice means only just us. The big cats get a free ride. Let's go back, again, to all the crimes that the banksters committed, convicted of fraud. You talked about Eric Holder, a whole list. Yeah, a little piece of low-life garbage. Works for the white shoe boy law firms on Wall Street. Remember the banksters were too big to jail. Remember? Oh, yeah, what's Jamie Dimon worth? Of the J.P. Morgan Chase group over there and all the rest of them? They don't do any time. No, they all get a free ride. But you make sure that you don't have 2 drinks when you get in your car after you go out to dinner and you didn't put on your signal light. Get out of your car, stand on your head, repeat the alphabet backwards. Yeah. Nah, there's not going to be anything. They'll try, but they won't go anywhere.
You don't think any indictments? That's really...
Oh, I think there'll be indictments, but they won't mean anything.
So
they'll whitewash them. They blow them away. Forget about it. Maybe you get 1 or 2, but nobody big. Listen, how about this one? You want to do impeachment talk? How about how come they didn't bring up the murderer, the lying piece of garbage, slime ball Bush? For starting the Iraq war based on lies that we all knew that were very closely in touch with this, that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction and ties to Al-Qaeda. Oh, yeah, and again, if only women were in charge, how about Condoleezza Rice? Yeah, you remember that mushroom cloud that you're going to see. And Penis Cheney, because I have to be proper on your show, I don't want to call him Dick. Yeah, where are the indictments on that?
So you think this whole coup, everybody in the coup, you think everybody big, Brennan, Clapper, Comey, Obama, who knew about it, you think everybody gets a big giant pass?
Of course they do. They'll get maybe 1 or 2 little lowlifes in the thing. The big cats get a free ride. Again, the word justice in America means just us. We're the ones. Look, all right, check out. Did you see the numbers that just came out for the Fortune 500, the S&P 500 top companies? How many didn't pay taxes? Like the Amazons and the Starbucks. Not only didn't they pay taxes, they got money back. Look at, they paid like 11% tax rate, most of them. The whole game is rigged. We got murderers and thieves running and ruining our nation. They're mobsters. The Democrats and the Repulsivekins, as I call them, they want Trump out of there because he's not a member of the gang. He destroyed the whole thing. He came in from the outside and won. He was never allowed into the club. Why did he build Mar-a-Lago? They wouldn't let him into the other one. So that's why they don't want him there. He's not a member of the club, and he's doing what he wants.
So what is America going to look like in 2020? I mean, what's your overarching more of the same except worse?
More of the same except worse. And there's going to be a great division going on. But let's go back to the election. It's very important that the millennials go out and vote. They're not going to go out and vote for Joe Biden in big numbers. And again, you're not going to see a Warren or a Bernie Sanders win the swing states. There'll be divisiveness, It'll be a contentious election. But all you have to do, Greg, is go and look at what happened in the UK when Trump's cousin over there, they look alike and act alike, Boris Johnson. They just before the election day, the polls were showing the race was too close to call. And then Johnson's party gets more votes than they have since 1987. You're going to start seeing the same thing happen here because this impeachment thing was just a waste of time. It divided the nation, and it didn't help the Democrats at all. It'll bring them down again because Trump, it's the art of the deal. He's going to use the Biden dirt to destroy Biden and the Democratic Party.
Oh, boy. That's so they're all partying now, but you're saying they have no real reason to party.
No, there's nothing there. There's nothing there. They obviously
not only is there nothing there, but that this is going to not just backfire, it's going to nuke them.
Yeah, it's going to hurt them very much. Because look, go back to the polls. Trump's popularity rating, yeah, it's down. But when you bring Trump in on the economy, it's up. He has high ratings on that. It's the economy, stupid. That's all people are interested in. And again, when you look at the numbers on how many people really watched the impeachment and really cared about it, it's very small. And the people that really care about it are the ones that are the Democrats anyway. The other people don't care about it. So it's not going to have an effect at all as promoting the Democrats. It's going to hurt them, and it'll help the Republicans push them up a bit.
I've long thought that polls were completely phony, at least in the Western world, especially with the Hillary Clinton stuff. And now over in Boris Johnson, you're saying you're intimating the same thing. Do you think all the polls are basically phony, or people lie on the polls, or whatever?
The whole polling methodology has changed because it's not as accurate as it used to be. They used to call in the old days. Now they're not calling anymore. People don't answer phones and answer questions. It's a whole different world. So the whole algorithms have changed, the metrics have changed, and the way they do it has changed. That's why you're getting the inaccuracies. And again, in our Trends Journal, it's there in black and white, and you well know, in May of 2016, when all the polls showed that Trump was going to lose, we called him a winner because we look at the facts much deeper than the polls just looking at their algorithms and their faulty data. And that's the way we're looking at it now. But people get emotionally involved in what they believe, what they want, and what they wish for. And we don't. We just look at it for what it is. We don't take a side on these issues. The side I take on the issues is, yeah, I call murderers murderers, thieves thieves, and criminals criminals. So it's easy to do when you look at the political system in America. Look at the wars they've started. Look at the money they keep stealing from us. So it's very simple to do that.
The war card. I know one of your pet projects is Occupy Peace. You actually have a 501c3 for it.
Yes.
You must be worried about the war card. Is the war card going to get flipped over? I know there's all kinds of strife, and you've named, I don't know, a couple of dozen countries in Chile, you name it, around the country, and they got protests and riots and whatever going on. Do you think that is going to, do you think we have more protests and riots on one side, and do you think the war card could be flipped over in 2020?
Yes, I do. When all else fails, they take you to war. You want to get the people's minds off things? I'll give you a good example. How about the longest war in American history, brought to you again by a war criminal, George W. Bush, Afghanistan. You go back to, he had just gotten elected. The nation was in a recession. His poll numbers were crashing. All of a sudden, 9/11 happens. What happens? His popularity goes up to 80%. So, go around the world as we just did. The world is on fire. It's not making the news. This is spreading globally. I'm very concerned about war heating up, particularly in the Middle East, with Iran, Israel, Saudi Arabia, what's going on in Yemen, what's going on in Syria, what's going on in Lebanon, what's going on in Iraq. Look at the protests going on in Iraq. Over 500 people have been killed in just 2 weeks. Look what's going on in Yemen, the worst humanitarian crisis on earth. But we won't talk about it because it's not in the news. Look what's going on in Iran. Look at the protests and revolts going on as their economy sinks deeper into recession. So we're very concerned about what's going on over there.
Middle East.
And if it heats up, it'll blow up. Oh, and by the way, look what oil prices are doing. All of a sudden, they're moving up higher and higher and higher. And they're not moving up because the economies are going up. No, no, no. Global economies are slowing down by all the numbers. You're looking at Europe. You're looking at Germany almost in a recession. Take a trip to Mexico. They are in recession. Go around the EU. Look at the numbers they're coming up with. Maybe they'll have 1.1% growth this year. So oil prices aren't going up because of demand, because there's way too much supply and not enough demand. They're going up also because the fear of war in the Middle East. And if these oil prices hit $100 a barrel, kiss the economies goodbye and kiss the equity markets goodbye.
So rising oil prices are your canaries in the coal mine. When
Yes.
you start seeing countries all raising prices of their oil, it's because of fear of war, because we've got plenty of supply.
Oh, yes. More supply. America's now the largest producer of oil in the world. In the world. We're on top of Russia and Saudi Arabia. There's more, and then you have all this even holding back with the sanctions on Venezuela and Iran. There's so much supply out there. So yes, it is the canary in the coal mine. And the prices are going up. People cannot afford it. Look at the numbers that came out. You saw them. Half of America's population, full-time jobs, earning under $30,000 a year. And now gasoline, oil prices are going up. You know the numbers. What is it, 70% of the people can't afford a $400 unexpected expense? And now they're going to pay more for oil and gas, and now take that globally.
Are you of the mind? I have John Williams on at shadowstats.com, and he says, listen, we'd be in a depression basically right now if it wasn't for Donald Trump. He's done good things for the economy, but he inherited a lot of debt. He got a lot of debt the day he put his hand on the Bible, and the economy isn't really that great. Do you think the economy is strong? Do you think it's covertly strong or overtly strong, or do you think it's not so great or mediocre? What's your appraisal of the overall economy? Because we keep hearing that the economy is fantastic.
It's mediocre. Look at the expected growth for this year and next year, 2%. That's what we had under Obama since the Great Recession ended. It's not that great. And again, the money's again. I'm not saying this is a political or any kind of personal statement. The facts are there. You got 3 people in America got more dough than half the population: Gates, Bezos, and Buffett. Take a trip around the world. 26 people, according to the Oxfam report, have more money than half of the world's population. So this disparity of income is real. Again, I just gave you some of the numbers. You have half the population nearly is earning less than $30,000 a month. And you look at the profits that are going into the higher end. So again, and I very much respect what Shadow Stats does. He's terrific, and he also tells you about, the real unemployment numbers. And then let's look also, Greg, at the real inflation numbers.
Yeah, he says it's 10%.
Yeah,
roughly.
So it's not under 2%. So because they don't put in healthcare, they don't put in rent, they don't put in mortgage, they don't put in taxes, they don't put in. So no, I would consider the American economy is moderately doing well. It will continue to do well as long as interest rates stay low, and they could lower them. Their overnight rate is what, 1.5 to 1.75 overnight rate, so they could keep lowering them. I believe by this time next year, we'll have negative to zero interest rate policy, and it'll keep artificially pumping up the economy. That's why I said in 2021, Donald Trump will be Hoover 2021, meaning Herbert Hoover 1931.
Do you you have Governor Northam who's in Virginia who gained control of the House and the Senate. He's passing onerous gun control, gun confiscation laws. He's talking about sending out the National Guard. Is that the tip of the iceberg for a civil war, civil unrest, things like that? What's your appraisal of civil war, civil unrest in America in 2021, 2020 or 2021?
Oh, escalating. Again, it's the divided states of America. We saw with the impeachment, and with a clown like this, the other guy in California, one after another. Listen, I'm all in favor of gun control. Let's start with the military. I don't want all my dough going to the military, all right? The Democrats voted almost, only 48 people voted against in the House of Representatives, 48 total voted against the biggest military budget in American history. Oh, then start demilitarizing the police with all the stuff that they got. Then come to me and tell me you want to take my gun, all right? Then talk to me about gun control. The fish rots in the head down. Well, it's America. Look what's going on. You saw the Afghan papers came out. Oh, we won't talk about it because it's out of the news. We got to talk about impeachment. It made it in the news very briefly about how they admitted lying to us,
Yep.
wasting trillions of dollars of our money. And not only that, how about Iraq? Trillions, what is it, about 6 trillion when you total up the war on terror? Killing over 1 million people, innocent people, on wars based on lies. And I got a little piece of garbage over there telling me to give up my gun. Here's to you, Jack. Come over here, Governor, and take it away from me, man to man, without bringing your little boys to fight for you.
So,
right.
let's try to end on something good. Is there any silver lining that you see for America in the year 2020? Anything good that we can end on?
Well, it's not a question of good and what, but it is what is. And
Yeah.
let me put this into perspective. I mentioned all those riots, wars, demonstrations, protests going on around the world. Name me one leader. Name me one leader. They're leaderless. Leaderless. That's a positive trend. Only in dumb America you got morons leading you in the Congress, in the Senate, and all around. They're leaderless. Number two, when things are going down, people want to feel good. The roaring 2020s. The entertainment media doesn't know how to do it. The entertainment industry doesn't know how to do it. The entrepreneurs do. People want to be lifted up. Give them something good rather than your bad rap. You take it easy, Jack. Got my own. Want to feel good. Entertain the people, you understand? The entrepreneurs that tie into that are going to find huge audiences. Elegance. Step it up. It's going down. Step it up. Be the best you can physically, emotionally, spiritually. Make yourself look good, feel good. Doesn't cost a lot of money anymore. Look what's going on. You're online. You could buy great products very inexpensively and also use products of the highest elegance for pennies on the dollar. So elegance, go back to the 1930s. I have a wonderful photograph of my parents, may their soul rest in peace, married 1934, height of the Depression. They worked as laborers. They worked in factories, fish stores, grocery stores, dressed to the nines, looking fine. Think about it. The Great Depression, hottest, happiest music America ever knew. It was swing time. Lift the spirits. Everybody's down. The smart entrepreneurs are going to really reap great rewards, not only financially, very, very satisfactorily, and it'll bring up the American spirit. And that, to me, is one of the best trends, the two, roaring 2020s and also elegance, eleganza. People want it. They want to feel it.
You're now you were a quarterly, and then you went to monthly. Are you weekly now? How often is the Trends Journal coming out? Because
It's a weekly.
it's a weekly. So the
It's a
news
week.
cycle, you were quarterly, monthly, now weekly, and that's because of the news cycles. The news is actually speeding up. It looks that way to me. Is that the theory behind your weekly Trends Journal?
You got it. And the implications are phenomenal. I mean, again, India. Oh, I forgot to talk about India and Kashmir. Oh, revolution's going on? Yeah, again, I've never seen anything like this. I'm in the business 40 years. It'll be 40 years in 2020.
Wow.
So we have to keep up with the current events forming future trends. Time magazine is last week's news next week. We're tomorrow's news today. We say what's going on, what it means, and where it's going. Knowledge is power, and that's what we're giving to our subscribers. The only magazine in the world that has this, and history before it happens, and if you don't believe me, show me one that tops it, and it's a money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose.
I really appreciate it. I will put up your links to the Trends Journal. I'll put up your sign-up page, your, what do you call it? The subscription page is what it is. Gerald Celente, thank you for coming on and give us a preview of what you think is going to go down in the year 2020 and beyond, and your trends, your predictions. Gerald Celente, thank you very much for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
And thank you, Greg Hunter, for all that you do to inform people with truth, justice, and the American way.
I just get smart people on, man. You're one of them. So thanks a lot, Gerald, for being on.
Thank you.